When Adana finds her husband feeding their neighbor's children, she uncovers a web of lies that will destroy her family unless tradition can save them. In the lush village of Nkemba, the morning sun painted golden stripes across Adana's woven tapestries hung outside her home. At 65, her skilled hands had brought prosperity a two-story clay house, a thriving textile workshop, and the admiration of her community. Her husband, Hike, a respected elder with a salt and pepper beard, tended their yam farm while their grandchildren played under the mango tree. Life moved to the rhythm of pounding pestles and Adana's humming loon. Across the dirt path lived Amara, a one beautiful widow whose own weaving business had crumbled after her husband's death. From her cracked window, Amara watched Adana's perfect life unfold like one of her fine fabrics. Hike massaging Adana's aching shoulders at dusk, their daughters bringing fresh fish from the river, customers praising Adana's latest designs. On market day, as villagers clustered around Adana's stall, Amara's fingers tightened around her unsold baskets. "Why her?" she muttered, watching Hike laugh as he helped Adana fold fabric. That evening, while Adana taught her granddaughter to dye threads with indigo, Amara slipped into the forest. At the base of an ancient baobab tree, she dug up a small clay pot sealed with beeswax, her grandmother's love charm. Moonlight glinted off the pot as Amara whispered, "What she has will be mine." Back in her cozy bedroom, Adana brushed her silver-streaked hair. Unaware of the storm brewing across the road, she smiled at Hike sleeping peacefully, never suspecting their golden years were about to unravel thread by thread. The rains came early to Nkemba, turning the red earth to mud as Amara's obsession grew. Each morning, she positioned her wooden stool by the window, her eyes tracking Hike's movements like a hungry hawk. When Adana left for the weekly Elders' Council meeting, Amara seized her chance. Dressed in her late husband's favorite blue wrapper, she crossed the path with a pot of pepper soup. "Hike," she called, fainting a stumble. He caught her arm, the soup spilling harmlessly. "Forgive me," she said, her voice trembling artfully. "I've been so lonely since my husband passed." Hike, ever kind, invited her to dry off. Inside, Amara marveled at the polished clay floors, the shelves brimming with Adana's awards. "Your wife is so blessed," she sighed, placing a hand on Hike's. That night, Adana noticed her best indigo wrapper missing. "Strange," she murmured, but thought nothing of it. Days later, while sorting threads, she glimpsed blue fabric in Amara's window, her stolen wrapper hanging like a trophy. Hike began taking longer walks, returning with mud on his shoes from the forest path. When Adana questioned him, he claimed he'd been checking traps. One humid afternoon, Adana returned early from the market and froze. There was Hike, shirtless in their kitchen, feeding okra soup to Amara's grandchildren while Amara laughed, her hand resting on his shoulder, the wooden spoon laddered from Adana's grip, her perfect world cracking like an overfired pot. The village buzzed with whispers as Adana confronted Hike that night. "She's using dark magic," Adana insisted, her voice cracking. But Hike, his eyes glazed like smoked glass, simply said, "Amara needs help. We have enough to share." The next market day, Adana watched in horror as Hike carried Amara's baskets to the best stall of her stall. That evening, she followed him through the creeping dust to Amara's hut. Peering through a crack in the mud wall, Adana saw the truth. Amara stirring a full-smelling brew, chanting as Hike drank deeply from a carved gourd. His adoring gaze never left Amara's face. Adana fled to the riverbank, her tears mixing with the flowing water. The next morning, she made her own journey to the baobab tree, carrying her grandmother's wisdom and a pouch of protective herbs. While Hike slept, she tied medicine bundles around their bedposts and slipped an amulet into his drinking gourd. But the damage was done. Their savings dwindled as Hike gifted Amara fabric, yams, even Adana's precious gold earrings. When Adana protested, Hike packed a bag. "Amara understands me," he said coldly, as he walked across the path to Amara's hut. The village women gathered around Adana, their murmurs weaving a net of support. "There's another way," whispered Afua, the midwife, pressing a small bone carving into Adana's hand. "But it requires great courage." Adana waited for the full moon, the bone carving warm in her palm. Dressed in white, she led the village women to the sacred grove. Their voices rose in ancient songs as Afua drew symbols in the earth. When Amara appeared, drawn by the noise, Adana faced her. "You stole my husband with darkness," she accused, holding up the empty charm pot she dug from Amara's yard. The women circled them, their chanting breaking Amara's spell. Hike stumbled into the clearing, confusion replacing the fog in his eyes. "What have I done?" he groaned, seeing the truth. Amara's hut filled with stolen goods, his own grandchildren neglected. Amara lunged at Adana, but the women restrained her. As tradition demanded, the village elder poured libations, calling on ancestors to judge. Suddenly, Amara's hands began weaving uncontrollably, her fingers moving as if possessed. "The spirits show her true self," Afua declared. Threads spilled from Amara's hands, forming a tapestry revealing her lies, the fake poverty, the poison charms, even her role in her husband's death. Hike fell to his knees, begging forgiveness, but Adana stood tall. "You must earn it," she said, her voice steady. The elder decreed Amara would live in isolation, weaving repentance tapestries until her hand stopped. Seasons turned in Kemba village. Amara's hut stood silent at the edge of the forest, her one unnamed hands now endlessly weaving the same pattern of atonement. Adana rebuilt her life stitch by patient stitch, her workshop flourishing with new apprentices. Hike worked on till dusk in her yam fields, his offerings of fresh crops and whispered apologies piling up at her doorstep. One humid evening, as fireflies danced, Adana finally opened her door. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the stool across from her loom. Hike's weathered hands trembled as he accepted the bitter herb tea, the first step toward reconciliation. In the marketplace, Adana's new tapestries told the village's story, dark threads of envy interwoven with golden strands of wisdom. Women brought their granddaughters to see them, pointing out the lessons. When Emra's isolation ended years later, she appeared at Adana's compound bearing a simple basket. "Your pain taught me," she said, her voice raspy from disuse. Adana studied the tight, even weave, a lifetime's regret in fiber form. "Keep it," she finally said. "Let it remind us both." That night, Adana sat with Hike on their veranda, watching the stars. Their hands, gnarled with age and mistakes, brushed lightly. The loom stood silent, its lessons woven, its threads at peace.